Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our next Festa RMIT Open Day live industry Q&A panel session. And today's panel session is focused primarily on the digital industry and broad opportunities for our graduates through our strategic partnerships for career pathways in that particular sector. You all are aware that our society and industry abroad are undergoing tremendous digital transformation journeys, and the digital industries provide exceptional opportunities for career pathways at this time across a variety of different disciplines. My name is Professor Alexander Subik. I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the STEM College and Vice President of Digital Innovation at RMIT University. I am pleased to be hosting today's panel discussion about careers of the future with some of our invited leading industry experts and people who will be able to provide you all with more insight about where the industry is going, the growth and career opportunities. At RMIT, we pride ourselves on preparing our students for life and work. We engage with leading organizations on projects, on student internships, and collaborate with industry professionals and leaders on the future of learning for graduate employability, as well as in research, development, and innovation. But before we commence today's session, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Wiwurrung and Boomerang language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges the ancestors and elders past, present, and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, and indeed our session today remotely, I want to pay my respect to the wider unceded lands of this nation. Before we commence with our formal proceedings, I would just like to go over some of the housekeeping points that will be, I think, informative for all of our participants. First of all, I'd like to let you know that there will be time at the end of our panel discussion to go over any audience questions, and we will make sure we provide sufficient time for that. You can submit your questions in the Q&A tool on the right of the screen at any time, and we'll try to moderate and curate that as best as we can. And for your information, this session is being recorded and will be available to view on our Open Day platform after the event. And I know that many participants of the RMIT Open Day who are trying to switch between different sessions have found that feature extremely useful. And thank you to our team for making that possible today. So once again, welcome everyone. As I mentioned, we have a panel of experts from a range of different industries, companies that are strategic partners of RMIT, who are working actively with our program teams and our staff and students on various aspects of their learning and teaching career journey. I'm pleased to first introduce Pratham Bandari. Pratham is the Digital Product Line Manager for Customer Engagement and Jemena. Hello, Pratham. How are you? Also joining us is Lee Hicken. Lee is the National Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you, Alex.
Good to have you with us today. Next, we have the Protégé Program Advisor at Mind Your Own Business, or MYOB, Chan Kane. Great to have you with us, Chan.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks.
Great to have you. And our fourth panelist, is the Senior Director of Data Engineering at Slalom Build, Lam Trong. Thank you, Trong, for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Alex.
Wave to everyone, as you do. And let me just say, Lam is coming from Slalom Build, so one of our collaborators within the RMIT program areas. And finally, one of our own, we have Dr. Maddie Ewers, Senior Project Coordinator specializing in women in STEM here at RMIT University. Great to have you with us, Maddie.
Great to be here, Alex, and hello to everyone on the panel and in the audience.
Fantastic, Maddie, and obviously you'll share some of your insights later. Just for everyone's information, diversity, inclusion, and women in STEM is at the heart of the STEM college strategy and RMIT in general. We have the Bronze Athena Swan Global Award. We're working very hard to reach the Silver Award, and we're the first university in Victoria that have appointed a Dean STEM Diversity Inclusion, Kay Latham, who works actively with MEDI and also with our industry partners on this very, very important agenda. And I'm really proud to say that the STEM College is taking a leadership role nationally in ensuring parity of women and men in our different STEM professions. And indeed, our leadership team in STEM College has achieved a perfect 50-50 balance, I would say first of those in Australia. So I will commence by asking my first question, if that is okay with my panel members. If everyone's ready, I might start by asking you about your specific role in your company so that our audience can hear more about your background and what made you kickstart your career in this particular industry. What drove your personal choice? I'll start with Chan. Over to you.
Hi, thank you so much, Alex. So my role as a protege program advisor, what that actually means is I actually manage two programs. I manage a graduate program. We don't really call it graduate program just because we've got so many different types of people coming into the program, and that's why we call it kind of more of a protege program, because it's been centered around mentorship. And the other program that I focus on is our Develop Her program, which I work very closely with Maddie, surprisingly enough, just in around getting more women into software development. So that is my role, and we feel that the strategy of emerging talent is going to be a big strategy for MYOB, especially with the lack of skills within software engineering that we're kind of seeing at the moment. But how did I get here? I think you will all find, and those who are listening, that your career, you might think at this point in time that you may want to be X, but you will find that your career path will kind of, it's never kind of this way. It's kind of up and down everywhere to where you kind of need to be. But I started in medical recruitment, and from medical recruitment, I then fell into technology, and the calling of technology really inspired me to really work in this field. And the reason why I love this field so much is the fact that technology and the way it's headed, it's infinite. There's a lot of things to uncover. There's a lot of things to explore. It's never ending. And for that reason, I've been working on really being able to build and enable people to work in teams and coach them to be high performing as well. So I've been in the industry for almost about 17 years now, and I love where I am at this point in time. And and now in my dream role, and that is to really coach our emerging talent and our future talent within MYOB. So that's me.
Fantastic, Chen, to hear from you. And we're really proud to be a partner of MYOB and working on this amazing project of getting more women into software engineering and computer science and a whole suite of computing programs. Over to you, Pratham.
Thanks, Alex. Look, firstly, I'm personally very humbled to be a part of this Q&A panel, being an ex-RMIT and myself. Couldn't be more honored, so thanks a lot for having me here. In terms of if people are not aware what Jemena is, we are a power and utility organization, and we serve electricity and gas across Australia through our energy assets. In particular, to my role as a customer engagement manager is to really ensure that all the market systems, which is in turn causing a customer impact, are up and running. Not only their lights on, but we are able to create new products and services to meet the both current and the future demand, what our consumers need. We have a team of value streams, which is functional analysts, technical analysts, engineers, customer service engineers, almost a cross-functional team, which is aligned to our business models, and their purpose and mission is to achieve the market strategic objectives and the KPIs day in, day out. So that's about my role. In terms of how did I get there, right? So it's a bit of an emotional journey, and I'll go back to my schooling days where my parents put me into a vocational program to get into website development course. This is mid-schooling when the internet boom was just starting. And as an output of that assignment, I created a website which was a very traditional HTML based on JavaScript, which was it was an online quiz show, if you want to say. And I gave that showcase to my family, and the sense of satisfaction and the pleasure that they had going through that quiz program stood by me, and I knew it then. I will be making my hands dirty in the technology industry. Don't know where, how, when. That's how it all started. Anyways, fast forward, finished my engineering in com sciences, master's with RMIT in information sciences discipline again, and landed into a very boring area of software testing with Telstra as a consultant. And again, little did I know that experience when I started serving tier 1 telcos around the world, both in software engineering, product leadership, project meeting with the clients, and the ability to see that end-to-end picture in a very early stage of my career really set those foundational skills in me, ability to really understand how does the end-to-end ecosystem works. And that was a good conduit for me to get into what I do now in the areas of Internet of Things and in the smart energy space. So that's me.
Thanks, Pratham, and great to see one of our alumnus present today on the panel, and might touch base later on during the discussion about how your master's in applied sciences at RMIT enabled you to continue from bachelor's to postgraduate coursework as you progress to your careers, which is just putting a lens on our lifelong learning focus, which everyone needs to be mindful, right? Learning doesn't stop and start just with the first program you enroll in. Moving on to Mehdi. Mehdi, would you like to share some of your views?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently coordinating RMIT's work for women in STEM with a focus on both students and staff. So looking at the attraction, the retention and the success of women in STEM. And so our focus specifically with students, it spans across supports and engagement, not just for RMIT women, but also for high school students too. And when I say RMIT women, I should really specify, of course, we've got women in vocational education in STEM. We've got women in our STEM college in STEM. And we've also got women in the university sector in other areas like property construction and project management, fashion and textiles, architecture, urban design. So when I talk about STEM, I'm really talking quite broadly there. And all of our work to support these students and look at engagement is with committed industry partners. And we're taking this whole of sector approach to create meaningful change, recognising that, sure, we can make things really, really good for students while they're at RMIT and work with our educators and staff and supportive community. But also, if we want to think about meaningful change, what does that look like? And really that's through partnerships. So partnerships with high schools, what are young women thinking about STEM? How can we help them? And partnerships with industry. And so overall, together across the sector, we're creating this supportive ecosystem with role models and networks to build, students' aspirations, but also knowledge about what's possible in STEM. So if I just reflect back on how I got here and what drives me. So I've always loved science, and I followed that passion into scientific research. So specifically, my background's in evolutionary biology, where I was investigating questions around the evolution of coloration in animals, and that took me to very remote places in Australia, working with lizards and birds, all very colourful, of course, but very remote. And however, during that research, although I loved it, I reached a point where I realised pure research wasn't for me, and I felt a bit stuck about that. I felt unsure about what was next for me, and actually, how could I enter the industry? How could I apply STEM skills and do something that I really wanted to do and create change outside of pure research? And so since that moment, I've moved into this area of work where I help others find their fit in STEM. So I've established STEM outreach programs for high school students and for teachers to explore the possibilities, but also the variety of STEM that's out there. And I've created also employability programs for STEM tertiary students, again, opening up doors for what their future career looks like, feeling confident about those options, and looking at those different pathways. so, of course, I've got this scientific background, and so I use this to evaluate programs and to, establish new things based on this international research and best practice. But also, I've got that background myself personally, know what it's like to not be sure where you're going and where STEM can take you. And so, of course, within this is that understanding of where STEM can take you by partnering with industry and with people who are doing STEM across a variety of areas and applications, to show young women, everyone, young students or not so young students, everyone, what you can do and how education is directly connected to those future careers. So leaving students feeling empowered about what's possible and where they can go. So that's me.
Thank you, Maddie. It's great to have you on the team and wonderful champion for STEM and women in STEM. And as you said, with 10 STEM schools across RMIT, plus 11 and 12, which is the RMIT Aviation Academy and the new School of Science, Engineering and Technology in Vietnam at RMIT Vietnam, it is really the largest STEM portfolio in the sector. And it's a formidable driver of economic growth and industry transformation out there. Okay, we'll continue for the sake of time. Lam, would you like to share some of your insights?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And firstly, thank you for inviting me. I've always had a pleasure and always enjoyed collaborating with the uni over the years. My name's Lam Chung. I'm Senior Director looking after data engineering for Slalom. And I won't go into too much, but Slalom is a modern consulting. So we focus on modern method, modern technologies, as well as modern way of working. Particularly where I sit is more around data engineering, which basically a couple of things we're focusing on, both digital products development as well as data product developments. So how did I get here? Well, it's a funny story. Both of my changes occur by chance. Firstly, I was a mechanical engineering and comp science student back at uni. Have always destined to actually join some kind of engineering company, whether it's or aerospace industry. Always want to work on a plane, right? But I, through a university open day, I came across a consulting company, and they were offering some student camp offsite for students to join and actually learn more about uni. I applied for that. Little did I know, I didn't get to go to the camp, but I actually got a job instead. So I entered into a consulting company working for a large global consulting firm, and that's pretty much kickstarted my career in software development, working on large system integration. And then about 5-6 years later, by chance again, I got thrown into doing a data project. And since then, for the last 15-16 years, has always been just focusing on working on data, everything from moving, converting data through to building big data platforms on-prem, and these days are mostly in the cloud to help our customers to harness the value of data as well as the insights that they can use to drive better product, better services, better experience for their customers. So yeah, that's pretty much just my 21 years career short in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Lam. It's fascinating, and hopefully we'll hear some more. And you mentioned a few times data, and I've heard from a number of leaders in industry over and over again that data is the new oil, and you couldn't agree more, right? It's everywhere, every profession, every job, every industry. Data is driving innovation and driving smart decision making of enterprises, and so data science, data analytics in every profession is becoming almost like a common skill, right? Needed. But we'll talk about that a bit more. And Lee, finally over to you on this question.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for having all of us and myself on this panel. So, as you mentioned up front, my role is the National Chief Technology Officer here at Microsoft in Australia. Now, you probably know what a CTO is, or at least there are lots of CTOs out there, and typically a CTO role would be someone that is inward-looking and thinks about how that company's products are developed and built to bring to market. The unique thing about my role as a national CTO is actually my job is outward-looking, and it's my job to work across all of Microsoft's technologies and ensure, with a bit of a focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, but really to align what Microsoft builds to the country that I operate in's ambition. So for me, how do I align what Microsoft does to Australia's ambitions to be a digital economy, to be a digital nation? How do I underpin our government's use of technology? And how do we, through that mechanism, engage across the universities, across schooling to drive better capabilities across our young generation as they come into this industry? So it's a truly unique role, and I love what I do every day, Alex. So it's interesting listening to all my fellow panelists. They have the advantage of hearing everyone else's story first. But look, like a lot of you all listening on the call, and like I think a lot of my peers, at this age, when I was leaving school, I really didn't have any clarity about what I wanted to do. I certainly didn't know what I wanted to have a career in. And I have to caveat this with, this was 30 years ago for me. I'm unfortunately a long way past my time at school and university. But so for me, IT wasn't really a career choice at that time. At the time, technology was just something that was becoming an interesting tool that some businesses were starting to get their head around. So I got a chance to play with technology at a very early age. I finished school, didn't know what I wanted to do. In fact, I went to the Merchant Navy for a couple of years because I just had no idea what to do with my life. And when I came out of that, there was an opportunity at the local university to do what was the very first BIT, Business Information Technology degree, which in fact wasn't a degree when I started. I think it was something else, and then it became a degree in the journey. And I did that. And for me, it was just this, I think it was Chen also said the similar thing. There was just this innate curiosity in me that technology was so open-ended. I couldn't see the end to what was happening in this industry. I was just getting started with this technology, and I was writing COBOL and JSE and MS-DOS was just starting to appear, but everything was new and it was just boundless opportunity. And so when I think about what got me into it, got me excited and got me kickstarted into it, was the fact that I couldn't see the end of it. It was so open and so much chance, so much possibility there, that I think the best advice I give to anyone now when I think about, when they ask me, why did you do it? It's because I couldn't see that end, because I was so curious to learn more in my roles. And I've worked at IBM, I've worked at Microsoft, I've worked at RSA Security, I've worked at Amazon Web Services, I've worked at a lot of big tech companies. And there's always something new to learn. And Alex, you said the word, about lifelong learning and exploration learning. The curiosity in this particular industry for me is that it is just a learning role. It's not a job I do. It's a job I'm constantly being challenged in and learning and having to learn in order to stay good at it. And so, yeah, I think like a lot of us, I didn't know it was a career back then, but it became a career because I had a passion for it, and it just keep presenting itself with new opportunities to me. So that's kind of my journey here.
Fantastic to hear, Lee, and I'll ask you to stay here because I'm going to ask the next question starting from you. But just before I ask that question, may I say how much we at RMIT really appreciate our partnership with Microsoft. As you know, we work very actively with Tiffany Wright and the whole team at Microsoft. And now the next horizon where we are together driving the augmented reality and virtual reality and the HoloLens technology and bringing that into health and nursing and space and geospatial and so on. It's amazing stuff, really. And that partnership between university industry is also creating new innovations, right? And our students working with us to actually make that possible. So on that note, Lee and others, but I'll start with Lee, we are seeing a tremendous growth in the digital space, digital industries at the moment. You probably know earlier this year, I've launched together with the Vice President of Amazon a joint report on the digital skills for Australia, showing millions of jobs being created in the next few years in the digital space. What excites you the most about this growth in your industries, and where do you see opportunities for new graduates in that growth, so to say? Over to you, Lee, first.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, look, and I'll just acknowledge what you said around the work we're doing together with RMIT and just the list of technologies you talk about. I'm sure many of the listeners of the audience here have probably heard of Microsoft, but they probably hear about Microsoft because of Office or Windows crashing on them, or some other experience, or maybe Xbox. But when you talk about the technologies like HoloLens and like what we're doing in digital twins, artificial, the breadth is there. So what it really excites me, and when I said earlier about the fact that when I got started, I couldn't really see the end of where this job was going, this technology, this industry. And so what's incomprehensible to me, Alex, is that 30 years later, that's still the case, that we're still at this point now where the tech industry is only just starting to get a grasp of what's possible. And we're just really starting to reinvent ourselves. And, 10 years ago when we kind of reignited the vision for the cloud, which for those of you who've been around long enough, is a very much akin to what we did in the 80s with bureau computing and cloud and mainframe computing. But it's become this new way of thinking about it, and it's opened up whole new sets of opportunities. So what really excites me, of course, is the fact that it just keeps evolving. It just keeps growing, and the boundaries keep moving further and further away. And we're just never going to get there, which is exciting and also daunting in some ways. So today, if you look around the way technology is being used, and you mentioned things like HoloLens, we talk about artificial intelligence, and you mentioned, Lam, about data and the fact that data is the new oil, and if data is the new oil, then trust is the new currency that goes with that data. All of these things are kind of creating new ways of inventing the world, new pathways to achieving big problems that we as society face and addressing the real challenges that we face as a planet in other ways. And so, for me, as someone who's been in the industry for a really long time, it's exciting because I don't have to feel like I did my dad did, which is do the same job for 40 years and then, kind of retire and walk away. I've been doing IT for 28, 30 years now, but I've done 20, 30 jobs in that time, and I don't think I've ever sat down and gone, well, I've got this job sorted. I know what I do.
So when did you finish uni, at 12?
No, I'm a little older than perhaps I look then. No, I finished uni in 1992 is when I finally finished. But I took some time out in between because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But now, as I'm coming towards sort of not the end of my career, but certainly in the twilight years of my career, it still excites me that I'm being forced to learn, but also the children that I have, my children are in high school, and the people listening here, they're going to have the same experience I had. They're going to have that same wonderment that they get out into the world of technology, and there's new things to do. It's not like you're just picking up the tools of the last person and kind of running with it. And so much now, when you think about technology, it's not just about the tech industry. I work for Microsoft, and there's Apple, Amazon, Google, and all these tech companies. But tech itself now is a skill in every industry. So it doesn't really matter whether you are interested in tech industry, but you're interested in tech skills. If you're interested in agriculture, retail, finance, political science, it's all driven by technology. And so there's only one thing I'll leave, last thing I'd say, though, that also is exciting me, Alex, and I appreciate I've taken a bit of time. When I was starting out in technology, the real thing was get your programming skills up. I was learning how to program in C and C++. This was the new thing after COBOL and some of the IBM mainframe stuff. And now today, we're back into that loop. It doesn't matter what you do in the tech industry or associated to the tech world. If you can program, if you can run program in JavaScript and Python, you are building a basis for an amazing capability in any industry. So that's kind of exciting to me that we're getting back to those core programming skills.
Thanks, Lee. And I'm glad that you finished on that note, because this year we've launched for the first time our coding bootcamp run by John Tagaraja and the team in computing technologies. Amazing success. The bootcamp style, the bootcamp ecosystem is what our students love. That's how they love to learn, and that contemporary style of learning via bootcamp has really been absolute hit. Thanks for that, and for highlighting actually where it's going. Pratham, over to you. What's your view about the growth and the excitement around the opportunities it creates?
Lee, loving your passion and energy, by the way. So I couldn't agree with more with you in terms of how fast this space is evolving. It's hard to catch up, right? I'm still learning. I'm sure I'll be learning for another 20 years before I retire. And I've realized that, but that excites me, by the way. So, but if I were to draw an analogy, Alex, and if I were to ask my grandparents that where would you like to park your lifelong savings? And probably 10 years back, they would have told me, okay, let me invest into a public listed power and utility company. Why? Attracts low volatility, stable returns. We say that's not what's happening now, right? So we're evolving. The energy industry is evolving faster than ever. And we're now really at that important moment in history where we need to make crucial changes the way we do our business. How do we deliver energy services safely, obviously, reliably, affordably, but how innovatively we can do it. I can talk about many examples, but to keep it short, right? Introduction of electric vehicles. Who would have known that reports are telling me now by 2050, we'll be looking at 55% or more of our vehicles on the streets could be electric. If you imagine what's the impact on the grid would be like. The entire shift in the consumer supremacy, right? Renewable energy resources, solar, battery, home management technology solutions. It's giving power back to the hands of consumers. Obviously, it has an indirect impact to the grid as well. But what fascinates me the most is that I'm in an industry like many others. It matters to the world, right? It touches each and every human being because everyone uses energy, be it the implications on economy, workforce, culture, um, carbon footprint, and our impact to the environmental changes. It tells me I'm a part of something big. So that's very exciting. But if I were to say, what are the growth areas, right? So technology is evolving. We're seeing the integration of many smart devices. Lee, you may be interested in terms of Internet of Things, the integration of all the smart thermostats, smart power systems, AI, machine learning. Of course, we mentioned the energy storage systems. These are all leading us to game changers such as blockchains, battery advances, smart grids, smart cities, and so on. So that's really the growth area. And obviously at the heart of it, at the core of it, it makes you feel that you can confront challenges of great social importance, not only by being there as a part of the technology changes, but you're giving that your bit back to the community, to the customers, to us, moms, dads, everyone. So that's really good.
Thank you so much, Pratham. Maybe you'd like to continue, Chan?
Yeah, so it's really interesting just listening to Lee and also Pratham talk, because I think when we think about technology, we've got to think of it in a way of it as it being a tool, and a tool to actually resolve so many different types of problems out there. And Lee just spoke about the boundaries being completely, I guess, challenged all the way, and it moves quite swiftly. So if we talk about boundaries in the future way of working, we're still trying to figure out what is ethical, what is not ethical. We're still trying to work what is kind of our future world and how technology kind of fits in that. And for those who are listening and hearing about technology and whether or not it fits within your, how would you say, persona, know that there is actually not one type of person that fits into that fits into that industry. Technology is a tool, and with your background and your knowledge and your experience can be applied to resolving all of those problems there. And we need, representatives of all different types of backgrounds to be applied in that sphere, if I can say that. So if we talk about the future, we are still kind of working that through, because the possibilities are always infinite. It's always evolving, and people are also creating their own roles to ensure that they're resolving those problems as well. So that's kind of my 2 cents, on that too.
Thank you so much. And Lam, finally over to you before Maddie. Lam, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And it's great to hear Lee starting off, and then Pratham and Chan mention around how technology is a tool. Technology is an enabler. I think we will continue to need the people to actually be able to tie those things together, right? We need people to be able to look at harnessing the technologies and the latest greatest thinking to be able to go and solve modern problems. For me, the excitement for me is everything that Lee mentioned and Pratham mentions around, IoT, more digital services, more digital products out there. Well, the one thing that excites me is that every one of those services produce more data. And the more amount of data we generate means the more we need to be able to go and harness by collecting, storing, and analyzing that data to improve, to be able to find insights that better improve the product, services, and experience. So that would be a key thing for me in terms of the excitement that it will continue to be an endless evolution for us. In terms of some of the potential opportunities, I mean, there's quite a lot out there. Given data is prominent and across the board, for us right now, there's a convergence in between leveraging data and leveraging technology. And, for us, the join between software engineering, data engineering is there in order to produce intelligent products, right? And that's the whole a holistic ecosystem. So apart from just simply having software engineers to deliver future products, we now need to look at data engineering, ML engineering, data scientists, data analysts to be able to actually look at those data and how do we incorporate those insights into the products that we build in the future. That's it for me, Alex.
Thanks, Lam. Thank you so much. Very good points. Mehdi?
Yes, great points from everyone. And I've never heard data being called the new oil. I love that. I love that. I think it's very, very telling of the power to inform our policies and practices through data and the management of it. But equally, what really excites me is, of course, that we have industries that are acting and committing to value-driven ways of working, and committing to equity and diversity, recognising that, diversity of thought, with that comes innovation. Committing to working with, together with educators such as RMIT, together we can empower and upskill people through those education pathways and then into careers to actively reduce inequalities, which we are seeing and continue to see through these strong partnerships.
Thanks, Mehdi. With the next question, I'll just might keep the next question very short so that I get as many possible ideas from all of you. In your respective roles and your respective industries, what are the top 3 skills you're looking for from graduates when they're applying for a job? What are the top 3 that you're looking for? I know there are many other aspects depending on the different roles they're applying, but in general, what can you summarize as the top 3 that you have seen from your perspective and you will be looking for? And maybe I might start with Lam this time.
Thanks, Alex. Well, it's hard to actually narrow down to just the 3, but if I have to pick 3, I would say that I would say firstly, being that curious and having an analytical mindset, right? Being able to actually look at problem and be able to analyze in many different ways, break it down and be able to actually solve that. For us, we're not looking just at the hard skill, like you're a great software engineer, you can do many different language, build in many different languages, etc. But it's that analytical skills is always at the forefront of that. I think Lee mentioned, right? I mean, after in the industry for 30 years, he's still learning, I'm still learning. And I think the ability to adapt, to learn, to pick up things quickly, to be able to flex with anything, with new latest, greatest thinking, right? I think technology continue to evolve at a much faster pace. And it will never be as slow as it is today, right? It will continue to evolve quicker. So the ability to actually pick up and follow and be able to adapt is also very important. I think last and final is around, I would add these 2 together, is the ability to communicate and collaborate. It's extremely important that these days, nobody can be an expert in everything now, right? The ability to actually collaborate and adapt with other people in there, you can only be able to master a particular domain. But a modern problem requires multi-domain, multidisciplinary skills to be able to solve. So being able to work in a team, communicate and collaborate remains an extremely important skill set for us.
Fantastic insights, Lam. Couldn't agree more with you. Chan, would you like to continue?
Yeah, look, I'm going to echo everything that Lam had said. There's an amount of growth mindset that's kind of applied there. But I am going to add that another thing that a lot of employers look for is coachability. I mean, the biggest thing is that you're new to the industry. We're not expecting you to be an expert. And that's why curiosity kind of comes into play. But more importantly, being able to be coachable. We are looking for people that are able to not only take on feedback, but also have the confidence to give feedback as well, because feedback creates innovation, creates better products, creates diversity of thought and discussion. So I would echo everything that Lam has said, but the biggest thing is be coachable. That's what we see in our graduates coming in.
Fantastic, Chan. That also goes to the heart of lifelong learning and being able to learn and adapt and evolve. The learning doesn't stop with coming out of the university, right?
Absolutely, and I'm still learning too. So
that's right,
like everybody else, yeah.
Exactly right. Pratham, over to you.
I'll just piggyback on Lam and Chan. Again, just to keep it short again, be open be authentic, right? So I think when we tend to hire, yes, we need your coding skills, but that's not it, right? It's with that, it's not only about your distinction or high distinction scores. It's all about those core foundational skills. They're legacy, they're traditional, they're not going anywhere, right? What are your behavioral skills? The creative problem solving, right? As Lam mentioned, we're looking that very much into our people now, right? You're an engineer, you're a software engineer, brilliant, but how you can actually work in a cross-functional team. As Maddie mentioned, how can you work towards a bigger picture to drive those outcomes and values with an enterprise hat rather than siloed in a team vision, right? Be passionate, right? What you do, it will grow, it will change, that's fine. But from my perspective, what we should be looking at, and that's the focus area for our teams, is with those traditional engineers, how do we get those new breed of design thinkers, human-centered design practitioners, those facilitators who can sell those stories for us. At times, and I don't know if my fellow panelists would agree or disagree, but we at engineering or digital, we're not good storytellers by heart, and we want to get out there, right? Meaningfully, effectively tell that story. So that communication, that facilitation with the new breed of technologies, whatnot we have, is very key.
Fantastic, Pratham, and that also goes down to the previous comments all of our panel members have made, that we are really working at the interface between technology and humanity. And the technology is a tool. If we can't communicate the purpose, the need, the value of that, it is hard to make a point, right? Storytelling, Pratham, fantastic. Lee, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. And I think, look, you're going to hear a lot of the repetitive commentary, I think, from all of us, because I think we're all thinking in the same way. What's interesting to me is that a lot of the skills we're talking about are what would traditionally be defined as called soft skills. And I think what's really becoming apparent in the world today, in the industry I'm in, is that those soft skills are actually your power skills. They're the things that actually drive what you can do. And your academic and your create, the sort of the tick boxes you've achieved to get there are all important, but those soft skills are really the power drivers. So let me rephrase. I'll give you my versions of it. And I think it's a rephrasing of what you've seen from the other panelists. For me, it's number one is this problem solving adaptability. The ability to look at problems and have the willingness and the ability to think about how to solve it, and then to be adaptable around that problem and understand that not everything's going to work out the way you need it to go. Failure is no longer a failing. Failure is a step towards the success journey. And so with that then comes this other skill, which is the capability or a capacity for resilience, and knowing how to get knocked down and then pick yourself up and figure out how to learn from those things that you learn along the journey, kind of learn from your failures kind of point of view. And then the last one for me, which I've heard mentioned a couple of times from my other panelists, is when we talk about teamwork or the ability to work in a team, and then also independent working and knowing how to balance those two, knowing when it's important for you to apply your own time and skills, but also know when you need to ask others and bring in that diverse set of thinking or diverse set of skills to really approach a problem in a unique way. Those are probably my three top of mind.
Fantastic, fantastic. Soft skills are the power skills. I'll take that away, Lee. Thank you. Maddie.
Yes, soft skills, transferable skills, enterprise skills, I've heard them called as well. So yeah, every year we have a survey of graduate employers, and we ask what are the top skills that you're looking for in your workforce. And just as mentioned by everyone today, it's those transferable skills. It's communication, teamwork, critical thinking, interpersonal skills, problem solving, research skills, flexibility, working with data and statistics comes in there as well. And that's what I hear personally as well from employers. You can teach someone how to use a certain software or tool, and in fact they're going to change all the time anyway. So you need to have that lifelong learning mindset, that growth mindset. But you can't easily teach the critical thinking or the problem solving that underpins STEM. And to me, this also says, STEM skills, they can be applied everywhere. There are so many applications for us to improve our world for the better.
Such a good point to end this question, Maddie. Back to the STEM skills, and it links to also what Lee said, the ability to scope, describe, solve problems, but not anymore in simple terms. This is systems problems. These are big, hairy, complex problems that require much more sophisticated skills than they ever had in the past. And I think sometimes, we take that for granted, but that is actually what's transferable across all the areas, right? So I might might close the loop here, and we will just now finish this circle of questions before we start sharing some of the questions from our audience. We'd just like to ask you to quickly respond to the following question, and that is, what is your affiliation and your experience with RMIT? As you know, in my opening remarks, I made a very clear, passionate claim that, for us, industry partners and engagement with industry business community is at the heart of our strategy. That's how we co-design, co-deliver, co-create our graduates. And we take pride in trying to be the most engaged university, to achieve those objectives. And we value our strategic partners from industry and business immensely. So all of you have some type of affiliation and you have experience in some way RMIT. What kind of affiliation do you have, and how do you experience that partnership with RMIT? I might start with Pratham.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Look, our relationship with RMIT is very symbiotic, right? So it's a win-win situation for both of us, we being future employers and the next wave of talent out there with a premium institute like yours, RMIT. Now, what's in it for us, right? The Jemena digital collaboration with universities will not only help us lift our competitiveness, growth, it will help us manage and maintain our competitive advantage. But whilst we are there, right, we'll be able to identify those outstanding student graduate talents, right? And they will really gain access to the new ideas and emerging opportunities. And that's very important, right? We've been in this industry, and probably some of us could be in our roles for more than 5-6 years. We tend to overlook what's happening out there, that fresh breath of air, the new ways of thinking, the impetus for new thinking. How do we build that new talent pipeline? So that's at the heart of it, that how do we make this a partnership model? But we want to give our students a very effective and very industry-centric learning opportunity. So what we're doing is, through our market backlogs, the projects that we probably are struggling because of capacity, cost constraints, and other parameters, we want to give a real-world example, a real-world project to our students through your work integrated learning programs. And we work with a couple of maybe 2 to 3 project teams every semester, and we're seeing some great results in the last 2 years. What we see here is that the students get to expose to our ways of working. And when there's an employment opportunity for graduate hires, I really take a deep passion to invite them to apply. And it's a win-win situation because they're putting their hands in where they've got an experience in. And I like to say, Alex, to me, it often sounds like that the students are hungry to get into the industry. I think it's the other way around. The talent pipeline is so big, diverse, and these guys, this new technologists, they are in demand. They are choosing us. So how do we make ourselves more sellable? Right? It's a learning curve for both of us. We're also exploring other opportunities such as our research and development program. How do we partner with a long-standing working bench with RMIT? And that's in progress at the moment.
Very, very good point, Pratham, and I couldn't agree with you more. I and my colleagues and RMIT in general are very passionate about providing industry placements and work integrated learning in all programs. And I found, and all research has found, that industry placements during your studies are the best way to gain employment immediately upon graduation. And that has been confirmed in many ways. I'm so pleased that we managed to embed industry placement and work integrated learning in all of our programs, and that's essential. Lee, over to you with the same question.
Sure, Alex. I'll try and keep it brief, conscious of time. Look, I think like any tech company or any industry, we've always had traditional programs like interns and graduate hire programs that we partner with universities on, and that's kind of normalized, and that's everywhere out. And it really doesn't. It's important, but I don't think it really gets the heart of what we need to do. And I echo a lot of what Pratham was just talking about, in that, for us, the shift has really had to focus towards how do we make sure that the students in those courses are not only getting industry skills, but they're getting really relevant skills, and they're building a capacity that is valuable to the industries they want to get into. It's absolutely right that the tables have turned, and it's not, it's about us having to sell ourselves to the students to see where they can pursue their ambitions and their dreams. And so a lot of the work we try and do now is as much around like visiting lectures, doing guest lectures, getting actually involved in the coursework, providing content into the curriculum at RMIT. But the thing that really excites me is not just that, but also how industry players like Microsoft and others can be investing in the research and the innovation that goes on inside those universities around the coursework that's being done. That's something we have a huge focus on today, is to make sure that we make sure that the body of skills that's being nurtured through organizations like RMIT is being tapped into really important research programs that Microsoft can both participate in, fund, and then collaborate with for future jobs in the post that work.
Thanks, Lee, for sharing that. Very important. Chan, over to you.
Yeah, I would say that there's kind of two streams. The first stream is we provide, MYOB software, which is kind of financial software to students and into their curriculum, just so that they're aware of our software. More often than not, some students will kind of go into their own side hustle and, trying to kind of, build a business through that. And what our software actually provides is being able to offer people that are starting and, succeeding and surviving through their business. So kind of introducing that. But on the other side of it is that we, as I mentioned before, run a program called Develop Her. And what this program actually offers is offering women a chance to either re-enter, make a career change. And you've mentioned, Alex, about these boot camps that you hold. And these boot camps has been such a great experience for our women so far. So what we offer is we pay for their scholarship at RMIT, and that's why we've engaged with RMIT. We offer them a permanent role inside our graduate program once they graduate, and our increase in women in our workforce has heightened quite a lot, especially through the build of software, which is amazing. So, but when we were kind of looking for an industry that really related to our values, and Maddie talked about being values driven, RMIT offered this amazing world of not just it being gender, but beyond gender. That diversity was representation of absolutely everything. And from that alignment, we felt that RMIT was the best. And so far, the experience has been really wonderful. And we know that we're going to continuously work with RMIT through the networks that they have to actually bolster up the diversity landscape of our workforce. So, and RMIT has just been completely bespoke and has listened and created curriculum. And it's just been an amazing experience so far. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing it. I have to tell you, in my vast experience working with industry and universities, the Develop Her program that we are participating with MYOB is one of the most fantastic programs that I've ever come across, and it serves such an amazing purpose. But also what our audience should know is that we are not rigid in terms of the enter requirements and their backgrounds, that women are coming with us from various backgrounds, various kind of entry points, and we are trying together to make the best of it and enable them to have fruitful careers, right, in MYOB. To compete. That's exceptional, and Maddie was spot on. What we shared is values, common values together. Lam, I will finish with you this question because I'm going to throw the audience question to Maddie as the next one. Lam, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. I think agree with everything my fellow panelists mentioned. I think there's a couple of things I want to add on top. I've always been impressed with the quality and how well RMIT has been able to train and deliver graduates that are industry ready with the industry skills that can be can be quite pragmatic. As we all know, there's a very big difference between the theories that we learn and then the actual practical side of it, right? So with that in mind, we've had quite a long-standing partnership with RMIT over the course of the last year or two. Particularly, I'll call out two programs. The first one is the apprenticeship programs, which we work with Chris James and his team to basically have RMIT third-year students placement onto our project. In fact, we went through with 3 apprentices this year, and it's been a success. And I love how Chan mentioned around the diversity as well, right? Our aim is to be able to have access to that future talent pool and be deliberate around encouraging and helping future women in technologies, right? So part of that apprenticeship program, we all try make sure that we have a balance between, men and women in terms of the hires. The second thing is, the second program that we're involved in is what's called the Data Innovation Hub. It's a program that run by Nona Milmaster, the Chief Data Officer for RMIT. And that's basically just been stood up this year, where we actually have a strong focus on growing future data analytics people, right? And that's across in between data analytics, data analysis, data engineering, etc. And the program is a 20 weeks plus 20 weeks. That means 20 weeks we will RMIT will make sure and build them and be able to get them the practical experience, and then they will then place 20 weeks of real world project experience with Slalom on an actual client project, and they give them a good sense as to ensure that what they learn can be put into practice. And yeah, I mean, that has been the two biggest things that we've been working over the years. And as Lee mentioned, apart from that, we also do things like supporting student coaching, student in data science and data analytics courses, and I also do guest lecturing as well. So back to you, Alex.
That's really great point. And I'm really glad, Lam, that you mentioned the Data Innovation Hub and the Data Experience Program. I've been working personally on this with Nona. It's an example of how at RMIT, academic and enterprise part of the university work together to create something special. And that's that data experience, where we actually producing data consultants among our students and sending them out in industry to solve problems, and in that way learn by doing. Fantastic. I will now move on to our questions from audience. There's a flurry of questions. Obviously your panel discussions have sparked a lot of interest. Maybe one question to you. There was a question about what it's like for a woman in STEM when they enter industry, when they enter a STEM profession. What are the biggest challenges, the biggest opportunities, and what advice could you provide?
Yes, for sure. Well, as we've seen today, across education and into industry, there's so much support and commitment for equity and diversity in STEM, particularly in tech. And of course, we see in tech that, yes, women are underrepresented. But what I would recommend if someone was to find their fit, their career, their education choice, is to connect with people in the industries. And just like today, so congratulations to everyone, students, for joining and meeting our fantastic panelists. And I think it's that mentoring and role models that makes a true difference for someone to find their fit and to know what's possible. And reflecting too on what people mentioned before, that basis in STEM can really take you anywhere. So how is it that you're going to use data? Well, actually, you're going to use data in any career. So, feeling confident in that knowledge that that basis can take you anywhere, and that there's so much support and opportunity to connect with like-minded companies and educators along the way.
Thank you, Maddie. Really good points. And obviously, it goes without saying, any of our audience can also seek you out via the web and connect with you and ask you any questions further. Let this be a beginning of a conversation rather than an end, right? You're open to that, right, Maddie?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Thank you. As you would all assume, everyone is right now concerned with COVID, right? And we have almost for the last 18 months to 2 years. And quite understandably, many of our audience are also interested to find out how COVID or how the pandemic has impacted on jobs in your respective industries, and how do you see, things panning out after the pandemic? I might start with Lee.
Thanks, Alex, and it's a really important question. And I think it's hard to talk about opportunity when we're faced with the pandemic, and so many people, so many ordinary Australians are struggling with the challenges and what that is doing to their lives and their careers. Look, from the tech industry point of view, the way I like to categorize it is it's an opportunity to step up. Clearly, digital is a tool set that offers great opportunity in a world where we live with these kinds of challenges that the pandemic has given us. The digital platforms that we can all be building and using are the opportunity to create these experiences that we seek and we need in the future. And what I would say to anyone listening, when I think about that from a jobs and opportunity perspective, there is tremendous growth and opportunity. And in fact, the two things that you need to think about is, first of all, It has driven an opportunity for remote working and the ability for people, not just those of you centered in and around cities, Sydney, Melbourne, and others, but actually to be based in remote communities and connect to those communities and work from those communities. That opportunity is opening up to everybody now. And secondly, as we are really accelerating and ramping up the use of digital technologies, it really needs a heavy focus, as has been mentioned by my fellow panelists, on a diverse, inclusive and broad range of inputs into those digital tools. So there's a great opportunity today for those of you that may not have thought about it because you just didn't feel like the opportunity was there in the tech industry. It's a very open industry today to diverse and inclusive growth, because we need that to do the right thing and build the right kinds of tools. So the pandemic's sort of an opportunity, but we need to be very careful how we phrase that, because obviously that's not aligned with current, a lot of people's lives.
That's quite truly, and I might just remind everyone of that, and you can look for it online as well. The digital skills report that we've launched earlier this year with Amazon and Alpha Beta, which has gained a lot of attention, has shown clearly that there will be about a 79% increase in digitally skilled workers in the next 5 years across Australia. And that's across the whole of Horizon, from various levels of skills and various professions. But about 79% of digitally skilled workers, which is around 6.5 million newly skilled and reskilled digital workers, which is a tremendous growth. So that is an area clearly with digital transformation that is going to experience and is experiencing, even during COVID, amazing growth. There's a question regarding which are the top professional areas or degree areas that are in demand out there in your respective industries. Maybe Lam and Pratham, maybe you would like to answer that.
Yeah, I'll thanks, Alec. I'll probably add in there, and probably on the back of Lee's answer as well. I think one of the things that, whilst COVID has a big impact on our society, one of the things that it has done is it drove faster digitization, right? All of a sudden, we all have to start learning on how can we do remote work. And so with that digitization, it requires a whole lot more in terms of the platform and the needs for us to be able to support that. What we also see in terms of the future is there's a huge demand, as you already said, data is the new oil. So for us, there's a strong demand, continued demand to be able to look and find more ways and better ways at harnessing that data. So with that in mind, as you can see, a lot of our collaboration with RMIT is focusing on data and data analytics. And so for me, the skills that will continue to have a strong demand in are data engineers, data analysts, people who can actually work with data, analyze data, and harness that data. But also further, beyond just simply collecting data and reporting on data, on data and insight, is the other skills are data science and machine learning engineering, right? With the power and of the cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and GCP, there's a whole lot more we can do now that is just not reachable by what was previously. You've got to have millions of dollars before you can actually have enough of the compute power to actually build machine learning model. Now it's at your fingertip, right? It's within your reach. And the last point, I just want to tie back into one of the comments that Chen mentioned around the ethical side of technology as well, is that we continue to have a firm belief in terms of AI, and AI is accessible for everybody. It means how can we use these technology to do things that are better in an ethical way, to actually look for and protecting privacy and confidentiality, but also to improve people's lives and experience. So with that, the other side of the just simply pure technologies is around consultants who can actually understand and be able to help us think about better and more safer way of actually leveraging technology and data.
Thank you, Lam. They are really good insights and really good directions for our audience to perhaps inquire further. Pratham, what's your view?
Yeah, well, look, I'll keep it quick. I think I'll just jot it down. Data engineering, agree with you, Lam. the IoT engineering. We spoke about that earlier. But then one area which we can probably talk about is, in my opinion, I don't have a banner for it, but probably what I would call it digital engineering. We can see and learn from your previous wish list in your starting careers, you wanted to get into an engineering firm. And where we are in the digitization, I can see that the engineering and the digitization is converging. It's giving you an immense opportunity for us to get into what we call as digital twins, and how we can actually simulate the entire engineering, mechanical, electrical, on from a digital footprint. So not only we can manage, maintain, but forecast for how the networks would look like in the future. That's one area that we can get into it. But apart from that, totally agree with you. AI, big data, data engineering, I would say digital twin to add it up.
It's amazing how you've brought also to the attention of everyone, Pratham, digital twins, because digital twins are at the heart of Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution that we have embarked on, that transcend all the disciplines, right? And this is now where we're bringing digitalization in almost every domain, a digital twin of a factory, of a hospital, of an operation, process, power network, building. You know, it is the future the brave new future we have all embarked on. Time is limited. I could continue with you for another hour. It's been inspiring, but let me finish with the last question from our audience, maybe for Chan. As you would probably assume, many of our young people that are thinking about university and degrees and what I should be doing, they're also thinking, you know, why should I do a university degree? You know, why is it important to do a university degree? What are some personal insights that you could share, Chan? Why is it important, and what does that mean to an individual?
Yeah, look, I think, as we go into the future, it is more likely or not going to be quite highly competitive. And if we look at employability, before the pandemic, we almost kind of, we were able to kind of hire as much as we can. We can hire externally, but because of COVID, there's actually limitations to that, which means that technologists, will be in high demand, and even, I guess pursuing your dream role will also be in high demand as well. And if we kind of talk through kind of university degree and why it's important, the biggest thing is commitment. It takes a lot of commitment, 3, 4, 5, whatever your degree kind of demands for. And that commitment actually demonstrates a ticket towards, hey, a degree demonstrates resilience, communication, the adaptability, your adoption, all these necessary skills that can be embedded within a snapshot of who you are amongst the thousands of applicants that kind of come into play. So if you kind of consider that, why it's important to kind of pursue a degree, those are some of the elements. However, if you can't get to a degree, it's still okay. There's still kind of roundabouts that you can kind of go into. It's truly your persistence that kind of gets you there as well. So if we talk about things like boot camps, for example, if you look at a institution, apply your curiosity and see how far you can go with the elements that institute can actually offer you. So that's my insights overall and what I will see. And if we talk about employability as well, we're already seeing at the moment in the cusp that we're kind of in a war of talent. A lot of organizations are looking for the same skills, the same type of title or whatever it is, and there's a huge challenge, and that's why organizations and my fellow panelists here are kind of reaching into institutes to be able to get that talent pool and sell ourselves, because that is the strategy at this point in time. Our future actually matters, and if we don't do it now, then that our brand is probably not going to be seen at that time in that state. So that's my insights there.
What a fantastic summary, Chan. What a fantastic summary. And I think I will leave it at that. You couldn't add anything more to this. It's a fantastic kind of a closure to our discussion. And I would really like to thank all of our panelists, Pratham, Lee, Chan, Lam, and Mehdi, for giving us your expert insights into careers of the future, and also in particular for your generosity, for joining us on a rainy Sunday in Melbourne to share your time and share your experience and insights with our audience today during the open day, the virtual open day of RMIT University. We look forward to seeing you all again and to see where all these discussions, ideas will lead our prospective students. As I said, this is a beginning of a conversation. It's not an end. And I'm just pleased that we have had the opportunity to introduce you all to our audience and the ecosystem of friends and partners so that we can continue that dialogue after this open day. Thank you to everyone who has attended our session. If you would like to see more of RMIT or watch this panel session again, our open day platform is available until the end of September. Take care, everyone, and enjoy your day.
See you, everyone.